right, guys, welcome to today's FFL Limitless Agency team call. We just had a great week 4 of December. We have 1 week left to finish out the year, and we're super excited. Today, we're going to bring you a great training by 2 top producers. First, we have Mr. David Pinilla. David's been in the business for a few years. He has literally doubled his production from last year in 2021 to this year in 2022. Newly appointed Hall of Fame member, which if you're new, what that means is he protected over 400 families on his own pen this year, as well as building a business. So we're excited to hear from David. And then we have Mr. Ben Quirple down here at the bottom of your screen. Ben had been in the business previously with a captive company, started his journey here with Family First Life, and his team is growing quickly for the few months he's been here. Ben just had his record week. I think it was 24 families protected in 1 week, which is like video game numbers. And we're super excited to see you enter the Hall of Fame next year in 2023. So thanks for getting on, guys.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be on here.
Yeah, we appreciate you, man. Thank you for having us on.
Absolutely.
You got it. So let's get into it real quick. If we can kind of just real brief, quick background, and then we'll kind of get into the nuts and bolts of collecting referrals and really converting on referrals.
You want me to start?
Yep.
Oh, okay, cool. So came from a captive company as well. Been doing a lot of, before insurance, I was just into a lot of things, never really found my passion. When I got into insurance and found specifically life insurance, I thought it was a product that you could sell really well because everyone needs it. And so I knew it was something that I could definitely help a lot of families with. I just knew that the environment that I was in previously was not it for me. I just knew I could not excel there. And then, you know, whenever I met Nina and Hayden and they showed me their, you know, their bank deposits, right? It kind of changed for me. I was like, cool, let's jump on board. And it's been a wrap ever since. But that's just a little bit about me.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I had similar situation, came from a captive company. And originally I was selling life insurance, but it was kind of that bait and switch mentality. And at that company, the only way of generating new business that I had was through referrals. We didn't have leads. We didn't have anything. Everything was through referrals. And so I learned very well how to generate new business, how to get favorable introductions from people, and generate that into new business. So happy to share some of those tips.
Amazing. So guys, we have, you know, pretty much infinite amounts of leads, internet leads, direct mail leads, social media leads, Facebook leads, all these kind of different leads. And just like you guys, you know, David and I at the previous company, it was the same thing. We literally had to collect referrals to the point where we'd be like, hey, give me your phone. I'm going to text your mom, dad, friend, aunt, uncle to get referrals, because if we didn't get referrals, we just weren't going to survive. Ben, you were pretty much all referral based. And so that's something, guys, I think if we can get better, we don't do a very good job with it. But if we can get better and add those, even if it's just 1 sale per week, and then you scale that to a couple per week, that's a huge ROI, and that makes you very profitable. And so basically what I think we should do here, guys, is just kind of start with one of you guys, go to the next one, and just kind of pivot back and forth to questions. And so David, if you want to start, when do you collect referrals in the presentation?
So usually when I collect referrals on a presentation, I typically do it, you know, in the basics with beneficiaries. That's usually where I start to collect referrals. The reason why I start with beneficiaries is they're the easiest. Why are they the easiest? Because they're the most important individuals of that person's life, right? They're depending on them to take care of their final expenses when they do pass. So a very easy way, like a miracle, right? Whenever you're completing the application, it asks for their basic info. Now it's optional to add their date of birth and phone number.
Sure.
Well, instead of looking at optional, put in required, like change that that's what I kind of did with my mentality, is instead of saying it's optional, it's required. So now I have that person's date of birth, their phone number, and of course you get a primary contingent. And that's usually how I get my first referrals, is just going based off that.
Got it. Ben?
Yeah, so most of my referrals are collected at the end after the sale is made. But I always like to set it up for favorable introductions in the very beginning when I'm going through my agenda. At the end of my agenda, I always plug in, and at the end of this conversation, we're just going to take about 2 or 3 minutes to make sure all of your family is on the same page. And then that sets it up so that afterwards, they're already prepared to spend another minute or two on the phone.
Perfect. So basically, guys, they're setting it up from the get-go. When they hit that beneficiary point in the middle, they're going for it. If they don't make the sale or they do, either way, at the end, they're circling back to get those names and basically get those introductions, those referrals. So that's great stuff. David, for you, when you collect the beneficiaries there in the middle of the app, are you explaining to the client that you're going to call them, or is that kind of like at the end once it's done?
No, I'll do that towards the end. I'm just collecting information is necessarily what I'm doing, but very similar to Ben's. Towards the end of the, once we've done all the fun stuff, getting their policy, understanding the metrics, I'll let them know. So, hey, just so you're aware, when it comes to the beneficiaries, I'm sure you guys don't know this, but statistically, 80% of beneficiaries don't even know that they are a beneficiary. And so a lot of times families don't even know that they even have a policy in force. So what I like to do, just to make sure you guys are not another statistic, is I'm going to call your beneficiary and let them know that you got a policy and that they are a beneficiary and what company. So that way, whenever that time comes, they know what to do. And of course, while I'm explaining your policy, I'll also make sure that their needs are taken care of in the meantime as well.
That's awesome.
So that's how I do it.
Yeah. I love that. Ben, what's your verbiage? You said you collect them more at the end. So how do you kind of gather those?
Yeah, so at the end of every conversation, it really starts off, I'm sure you guys have heard this before if you're in sales, but feed a positive, seek a positive, right? So at the end, they get approved. David, congratulations. We were able to get you approved with one of our best companies. That's a huge, huge feat. Congrats. Now, like I said, before we get off the phone, I want to spend about a minute or two and talk about some of the people who you know who might find value in this same conversation, right? I want to make sure that your entire family is on the same page. So from that point, I'll typically ask them for their main takeaways or how was your experience, some question like that to get a positive response back. That might look like, well, I'm glad that I was able to work with a broker. You explain the difference between the two types of coverage very well. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. David, that's awesome. I'm super glad that I was able to help you out. Like I said, we want to make sure that your family is all on the same page. I know that you're a guy who cares a lot about his friends and family. And most people have about 5 to 10 others who they'd like to get taken care of as well. Make sure that they have the best coverage in place. Who's the first person that comes to mind? Silence. You guys know, first person who talks loses. And I'd say about 25% of the time, they'll be the type of person to say a name right back. About 75% of the time, they're going to say, I can't think of anybody right now, but I'll call you back when I do. The response to that is, perfect, David. I completely understand. Most people need to whip out their contact list just to scroll through there. So why don't you get out your contact list and we can go through them and just get everybody knocked out at once. Let me know when you have that up in front of you. As you wait to get them to whip out their contact list, you can kind of prepare just to write down everything, but they'll probably, most people give you a name right off the bat, 1 or 2 names. Right after they give the name, okay, perfect. David, what's Hayden's number? Most of the time, they're going to say, I'm actually not comfortable giving you their contact information until I reach out to Hayden first. Perfect, David, completely understand. And actually, I would never want to reach out to anybody that you weren't comfortable with me reaching out to, right? And to give you a little insight on that, it actually works out a lot better when they know I'm calling first anyways. So here's what we'll do. I'll give you a couple hours. It's 1 p.m. right now. I'll give you a couple hours to call these people. I'll take down their name and number now, and I'll call them around 7 p.m. before I leave the office. What's Hayden's number? Perfect. You're leading them in the right direction. And most of the time they're comfortable giving the number at that point. So that's kind of what that looks like.
That was great, guys. A couple key terms that they used. The first one is most people. Most people want to be like most people, so they're going to do what most people do. And they want to kind of like, it's kind of like that herd mentality. They want to do the same thing everyone else does. So that's great. Number two is asking. I love what you said, Ben, about asking almost for a report card, asking for, a review. How did I do? Because once that person says, oh, you did great, it was amazing, which they're going to do, especially if they buy a policy, then it's kind of like, well, I just said that they did a great job and I find this valuable. Why wouldn't I refer this to my family and friends? So that was great. In terms of putting a number on it, guys, that's something else that we've all found. If you say you can refer one person, some are going to give you 0, some will give you 1. But if you say 5 to 10 or 10, maybe they'll meet you halfway and go to 5 or 7, or maybe they'll go to 10. Some people go way over that, which is like, just keep the well coming. We'll keep on taking them. But that's great. And you always congratulate them. A compliment. I like that. For you guys, so David, you get him the beneficiary and you get, 2, 3, 4. Are you giving them a number at the beneficiary? Like, hey, we need to get, 2 primaries and 2 contingents, or how does that work?
So typically, depending on whether it's a 50-50, 100%, let's just say it's, mom and she has a son and daughter. So, if the mom loves both children, she'll do 50-50. But if she prefers, one over the other, she'll make one primary and the other contingent. Either way, right? I'll get their numbers, their date of births, but let's say that that's not enough, right? Because it's never enough, right? We always want more referrals. I'll always add, okay, what's an emergency? Who's a good 2 emergency contacts that you can provide outside of your son and daughter, that in the event something were to happen to them, or the insurance carrier was not able to get a hold of them, would be a good fallback to make sure that we get that money paid out to your family. And then, okay, perfect. Who's the first person in mind? Perfect. What's their name? And then kind of like how Ben said, what's their phone number? Perfect. And then who's next? And, first one to speak loses. Yeah. Yep.
I love it. So guys, we have beneficiaries, we have emergency contacts, and then at the end, we have the way that kind of Ben does it more, where it's basically saying, who do you know that could benefit from this? Julius just put in the comments that 80% of people don't know they're a beneficiary. That's massively important too, because if someone buys a policy, like, it would be foolish to, not want your family and friends who are the beneficiary to know that you have a dang policy to pay out when they die. David, let's start with you. So you focus more beneficiary emergency contact. Once you get those names, kind of explain how that goes. Are you having them text them to let them know, or are you just straight calling them? And what does that conversation sound like?
No, Ben kind of hits it right on the money. It's best that they call them or they at least text them. So you always give them kind of like homework, because people are procrastinators. So you always want to put a time limit on things. So like how Ben said, I'll give you till 7 before I leave the office. So same idea. Hey, I'm pretty busy for the rest of the day. So if you could please let them know by the end of the day today or early morning tomorrow. That way, when I give them a call, they're not mad at you, nor are they not mad at me, and they know that I'm giving them a call. So I always want to prepare them because, people are procrastinators. And if you don't tell them, they will never tell them. And then whenever you do call them, and you let them know that you did help mom and dad and you're trying to get them coverage, there's going to be some confusion because they weren't really expecting your call, and now you have to build trust. Rather, if the mom called, trust has already been built.
Yep.
Just by that one simple phone call. So
I love it. So let's take it a step further, David. I give you, some beneficiaries, emergency contacts. Let's say it's my mom, my dad, and my brother. I'm going to text them, tell them, hey, my agent David's going to be reaching out to you. I text them, I text you back and say, hey, David, talk to all my family that I gave you. They're good to go. You can call them. What does that conversation look like?
Absolutely. So let's say, for example, I speak to your brother. So, ring, ring. Hey, is this Hayden Hill's brother, Michael? Yeah. Oh, okay. Hey, what's going on, Michael? This is David. I don't know if Hayden notified you. His agent for the life insurance policy that he recently acquired. Did he let you know? Yes. Okay. Fantastic. I just wanted to kind of go through the steps because you are a primary beneficiary, and this is really important. Okay. So do you have a few minutes to talk? Most of the time, they're always going to say yes. 90% of the time, they say yes. So okay, great. So what I want you to realize is because you are a beneficiary, you are the one responsible that in the event Hayden does pass, you are going to be the one receiving the funds to take care of his final expenses or whatever he needs to be, whatever needs to be done. So number one, what needs to happen is you need to make sure that you know where the policy is, right? Because the policy number is the most important. If you cannot provide that to the carrier, they're not going to know who you are. So make sure that you know where that policy is so that way, whenever you call the carrier to place a claim, you can acquire the money. Does that make sense? Okay, great. Now, and then, I'll go through the little bitty stuff like, hey, if you're having trouble and you can't find the insurance company's number, here's my cell phone number. That way, if you have any questions, you can call me, text me. That's what I'm y'all's insurance broker for life. So anything that you guys need, that your family needs, that's what I'm here for. But most importantly, Hayden also mentioned that he wanted to make sure that you were taken care of as well, in case something does happen to you, just like how he wanted to make sure that you guys weren't placing a burden, that it's vice versa, that doesn't happen to them as well. So what we'll do is we'll go over through like a financial needs analysis just to make sure you're in a good spot as well. And then I'll just take it from there. And, if I hit it, perfect. And if I don't, that's fine too. I don't really make it a big deal because it's just best practice. It's not going to work 100% of the time. But hey, you make it happen and there you go.
I love it. No, it makes sense to me.
That's
David,
it. That's gold.
David, for you, what would you say? Let's say you collect 4, beneficiaries / emergency contacts per sale. What do you think is the conversion? Like 1 out of 4 of those you sell, 2 out of 4? What does that look like?
As long as I set it up the right way, 2 out of 4 or 1 out of 4, one
Nice.
or the other.
That's solid. Ben, for you, so you collect them at the end. You get, let's say, same thing. I give you mom, dad, brother. You say, hey, can you text them? I text them, letting them know. I'm going to text you back, Ben, and say, hey, I let my mom, dad, and brother know. You can call them, when you're available. What does that conversation look like?
Yeah. So most of the time at the end of the conversation, I try not to reveal all of my cards at once, but I'd always try to get 10 names, right? At the end of our conversation, we go through, we get, let's just say 5 names. I'll typically say, Hayden, you're going to reach out to him anyways. Why don't we just put them through on a 3-way call and just do a quick introduction just so that they know they can trust me. A lot of times that works great. They know me, they pick up my next phone call whenever I call them back. I've had a couple where we fill out entire applications with 3 people on the phone. And so that's always a plus. But if they won't do that, or they have too many excuses and I can't get through the objections, they just give me the number. I'll reach out to that lead. Hello, Hayden.
Hello.
Hayden, this is Ben. I'm good friends with your Uncle David. Did Hayden let you know I'd be reaching out?
Yeah, he did.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. So the reason that I'm calling is David is, I'm sorry, I went over it there, but a lot of people will say, no, like he didn't let me know I'd be reaching out. Perfect. Sorry for coming out of the blue. If they do, that's awesome. I can tee it up as, so as you know, David got life insurance in place and he wanted to make sure that you were all taken care of as well. What coverage do you currently have? Roll into a presentation from there. And then, like I said, if they say no, so sorry for coming out of the blue. David wanted to make sure that you were taken care of. What coverage do you have in place?
Got it. So guys, there's multiple ways to get it done. I always found, and I don't know why I always thought this, and you guys probably thought of it too, and people on the call are probably thinking the same thing. I was always nervous to ask for referrals. Like I thought that, hey, maybe it'll ruin the sale, or maybe they'll think I'm being like, too salesy. But really, if you do your job correctly and you come at them from a place of service and wanting to serve, the beneficiaries, serve their family and friends, if you can provide value, then it's a lot easier. And I'm going to ask you guys, when you guys do make a sale and collect referrals, do you think that helps kind of cement that deal even further now that mom, dad, sister, brother, aunt, neighbor know that they have an insurance policy?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. And another thing I would say is start asking for referrals in every single conversation. I don't care if you're just calling them to let them know that they were approved, if a policy was in underwriting, just get used to constantly asking for referrals. That's what I've been doing. Even don't be scared to call up old clients that you sold last year and check in. Hey, David, how's everything going? Awesome. Just wanted to let you know that, I'm here to help you. If you ever need anything, feel free to call in. I'm here to help your friends and family as well. By the way, who do you know who might need help? Just a simple conversation like that might get you an extra 2 or 3 names and turn that one sale into 3 or 4, like you said. So.
Yeah, I think the main thing, guys, is just asking. Obviously, these guys are masters at asking. They've perfected kind of their script of how to do it. But when you start out, if you just ask, like, you're gonna have people give them to you. You're gonna have people say no as well, which it's kind of like it's free sales if they say yes and you convert. That was fantastic, guys. Thank you. Let's finish off with any best practices or tips outside of what you guys shared that you think would help people, after this call, they start calling people and, trying to get referrals from those clients.
I would say, what I would say is just put the family first, right? Just name the company, just serve them as much as you possibly can. Just put the commission behind your head. Just focus on them, what they need, what they want, and people will see that, whether that's over the phone, whether that's in person, whether that's over Zoom. People can just tell that you're a good person and that you actually care about what they want. And when you do that multiple times, sometimes referrals will come your way before you even realize it. They'll even suggest it to you, not all the time, but if you just show like a kind heart, have a servant's heart, it's always going to come back to you tenfold. And so just doing that, asking questions, paying attention, listening, that's going to be the best way.
100%. And I would say the same thing. Don't be the agent who wants to call them, fill your pockets with commission, and then get off the phone and never contact them ever again. They want to know that you're there to help. If they feel like you truly have their best intentions in mind, they're going to be willing to go scream your name to all their friends and family at Christmas dinner. And then the other thing is, you took all the time to build rapport and build trust with that client in order to get their business. Use that rapport and trust that you built with them to roll over into the referrals that they've given you. That's just a major key. And like Hayden said, you can turn that one sale into 3 or 4 pretty easily.
I love it. Well, thank you guys so much. That was fantastic. In the chat, we have a lot of comments. People got a lot of value. We're going to put this thing up on YouTube. It was a fantastic training. Make sure you guys rewatch it and thank both David and Ben for sharing those tips. Thanks, guys.